JT Crowley is Talking Books. On the show, you'll hear from emerging talent and seasoned veterans from around the world. They'll give you their take on the writing process and how to create the secret sauce of page-turning deliciousness. Let's get into that magical mixture of the art and science of creativity. Here's JT Crowley, author of The Smart Kids, and your podcast host.
Hello, I'm JT Crowley, and joining me today is Claire Goff to talk about her debut novel, Truth Be Told. You should never judge a book by its cover, for sometimes the outcasting doesn't necessarily reflect on what lies between the pages, and this book certainly fits in that category. A bit like life, I suppose what you see is not necessarily what you always get in life, what you follow up, what you actually see. And as I said, this book is very much like that. So the blue rose, that's a very soft image, but what you're going to see in the book, everybody, just wait and see. Claire is from Kent, and that's in the United Kingdom. And having had several conversations with her over the past few weeks, she's opened up to reveal that her personal life hasn't always gone according to plan. So, without further ado, let's ask Claire to come on the show and see what she's got to say about her debut book. Claire, would you like to come and talk to us?
What can I say?
What can you say?
It certainly is. There's so many reasons behind my writing the book. So many. All
right, let's get to that in a minute. Claire, I think it'd be fair to say that you've led an interesting life, a colourful life, and some of the paths that you've went down, weren't exactly magical. Is this book you telling readers what some people experience in life?
Yes, definitely.
Do you want to expand on that?
Well, I think for myself, the struggles of being a single parent has been tough. The stigma, the discrimination, the hardship, the loneliness. Yeah, I needed to express that. I think not just for other people, for myself. It was a healer writing. And yeah, for me, it was to get a true representation of the lower social working classes of our time. As I've discussed before with you, John, the CEO, he shouts out very, very loudly about the fact that, traditional publishers do not take on lower social working class writers. However, he's still got his door shut. So as much as he's shouting about it, he's not opening the doors. And that was one of my biggest burners, shall we say, to get my story out there, to get our story out there, the lower social working classes, certainly from a single mum's point of view. And hopefully, one day that my novel will be studied to understand the lower social working classes and the times and the obstacles that we were up against for the future, not just for today. For today, it's more of a crime, romance, exciting, naughty novel. But
it's certainly naughty in parts.
It is naughty. I was actually, I didn't actually have sex for 2 years when I wrote this novel. As you probably can tell, John, it's saturated in sex and the lack of, or, the hopes and desires of that love that we all crave, the silly little princesses around the world. I think we all crave the same fundamental prince coming along, looking after us, having wonderful children and growing a beautiful family. But it doesn't always work like that, does it?
It doesn't always work like that. No. And I think your book certainly reflects that. There's a rawness to your book. Was that intentional?
Yes, it was intentional, definitely, 100%. My childhood, my mum, her partner was very abusive, and at the time I don't really think it affected myself or my brothers or my sister, but being a 40-year-old woman nearly, I know 100% that drama, that carnage definitely had an impact on our lives.
Was that more of a reason for you to write this book?
It was one of the reasons. I wanted to portray what really goes on in the world, whether it, and my own father, you know, I didn't suffer any violence from him, but my mum did when we were younger. So again, you know, I love my father. I don't judge him because of that, but I try to understand the reasons behind that. And in the novel, I talk about the unskilled workers, shall we say, who can't actually get a decent job to pay for their family, to pay for the roof over their head, to pay for Christmas, to pay for a holiday, to pay for a weekend in a caravan. They can't do it. They're turning to other areas to make their money. And that's not just that either. Can you imagine how, you know, the impact that must have on a person that they can't provide for their family? That, you know, their self-worth has got to be on the floor. So they're either going to turn to alcohol and drugs to escape from that, which I'm seeing where I live, or they're going to join the drug dealers so they can actually give their children a half-decent existence. Because I know, John, being a single mum, my wages, I earn apparently good wages in the world. No, I don't. Me and my children struggle completely. And working in recruitment in an environment that is exploiting, you know, the consultants. I'm happy to be in the office at 7:30 in the morning, and I've got to leave at 6 o'clock. That's fine. But when I've got 2 children sitting at home waiting for mummy to come home and cook dinner, and I'm sitting in the traffic for a whole hour, it's just unreasonable. The stress that comes to that, you know, the fact that my children are being left in a vulnerable situation from 3 o'clock in the afternoon. There was one occasion my son was riding home from primary school. Mum, I've fallen off my bike. I'm in a completely different town. I can't even get to my baby boy who's fallen off his bike. I've had to call a friend. A friend's in and gone and picked him up. What sort of mother does that make me? You know, it didn't bow well with me. I wasn't being the parent that I should have been. And I also couldn't be the consultant that my boss wanted me to be, because I had this big, you know, I was torn. You know, who's more important, the money to put the roof over their head and to feed us, or, you know, to care for my child? It was tough. So tough. And that was another thing I wanted to get out there. I appreciate the government. I appreciate that they help us, but they don't give me my husband's wages. They just about cover my wages. So you can only imagine the poverty that we're constantly stuck in. And it's not been nice. It's been devastating. Just that lack of money every day, that lack of funds every day. And I noticed I did put I only put snippets in the book. There was one comment I put in the book where Kate's child, Sadie, and her granddaughter was staying with her mother. And that weekend, she was so thankful because she didn't have enough money to feed the children that weekend. And me, my 2 children's fathers have never give a poop. Literally, they do not get involved. They've never given a bean. So for me, I needed to express that because I found it so difficult. You know, the thought of my child going away for the weekend. Okay. Yeah. I've not got to feed him all weekend. You know, the pressure straight away is off. But I never had that. Never had that in 17 years.
That comes across in some of your characters. Yeah. How long did it take you to write this book? You know, create these characters.
Okay, I started it the month I left university in 2014, and because I was so scared of being unemployed, I went straight back into recruitment. Where I literally started off in recruitment on a YTS scheme at £50 a week when I was 16. So to go to uni, to go to college, and then come back to that role, it doesn't make sense, does it? It's not what society says that's going to happen. Society says, you go get yourself educated, you will have enough money to basically live. I still didn't. I was still struggling in the world of recruitment, not being able to leave the office till 6 o'clock. I was fine, all right at home, peeling the veg, on the phone to clients every night. My bosses didn't mind that, but they wasn't flexible enough to let me leave at 4 o'clock in the afternoon and work at home. It was a very controlled environment. The thought of ever having to go back into recruitment scares the life out of me, John. It really does. They don't appreciate you. They pay absolutely diabolical wages. And coming from a single mum, I needed more. And there was the last year I worked in recruitment, I made my company £137,000 profit. I walked away with £27,000. It doesn't bow well with me. That's capitalism at its best, and I can't stand it. I believe in capitalism, I believe in growth, but I don't believe in greedy capitalism. And because of my single parent status, I felt that they exploited me on that. I was the desperate job seeker, and they knew it. And it's made me angry.
Some of this part of your life is coming through in the book, isn't it? I mean,
yes, definitely.
I mean,
my pains, my anger, definitely.
Oh yeah, definitely.
I mean,
in the book, Kate is the main protagonist, but you've also got some other strong characters, and they are strong characters, you know, Sadie, the daughter.
Amongst, John.
Yeah.
You should see some of the characters that I've surrounded by daily. It's quite... Some people say they can't resonate with this because they're so far away from our world, but then you've got a lot of people that do resonate with this.
Yeah, and you know, you've got Frankie and William and Aunt Lane. These are all strong characters. And I said, you know, listeners, this is a book that you may not like it. It's got a rawness to it. It's coming from a very different angle. And you just might see that, you know, different people from different parts of their society lead different lives. And I think this book is one of those books that's going to perhaps open your eyes. But I'm fascinated. Yes, you talk about 2014 when you started to write the book.
Oh, but I stopped. That was my point. Sorry, I go off, don't I? No, I stopped because of work. Work's so demanding. I couldn't possibly. So I didn't pick it up again until 2018.
2018,
when my baby girl was bouncing away in her bouncer along the lounge. That's when I finished it, and I finished it in 2018. It literally took me about 4 months to complete the actual novel.
So you've said to me in various conversations, you can read a book in a day, can't you?
Oh, yeah. When I was at uni, I had to read 2 novels a week and 2 plays a week, so it was very intense. So, yeah, don't get me wrong, my housework's neglected in that day, John. And it's a bit much a pasta for dinner tonight, kids. But, yeah.
I'm coming to that.
Yeah, I do love them.
So, obviously, the book is a little bit around the concept of your own life. That's how it came about, wasn't it?
100%. Yeah, my experience of being a single mum, the stigma, the discrimination was definitely a big motivator for me to write it. And also, there's so many secret little dates and things in there. There's a big dig at my son's father. Big, huge. And
I noticed that because in the book, there are 42 chapters.
Okay.
There's many twists, there's many turns, there's many storylines, multi-layering going on here in this book. But I want to, as I said to you in the past, I think your life has been very much a snakes and ladders life. And I think going to university for you was one of the ladders, because you went to the University of Kent, which is down in Canterbury. And you read drama and English and American literature.
I certainly did.
So was this a turning point in your life? And I think this to me comes across that this is, you're the phoenix, rising from the ashes.
I've wrote poetry about this. I really have.
Did you enjoy life at university? What did you learn from there?
I learnt, again, the English literature department don't like my kind. The discrimination from the English literature department it made me sad daily. My drama department begged me to leave English literature because they were rotten to me. They didn't like me. As soon as I opened my mouth, apparently they knew that I was from, the lower social working classes, and I didn't fit their mould as such. And me being a mature student, I was tending to constantly raise my hand in class, John. And again, the English literature men lecturers, shall we say, did not like that. The foreign teachers in English literature, may I add, were beautiful. They were amazing. But I look back now and I think that is purely because they probably had a very similar existence to myself, being a woman, certainly of a foreign nature, that I feel that, they would have experienced some sort of discrimination throughout their lives. Hence, they had a different approach with myself. And I certainly got better grades in those particular modules. So it really did. If you look at my grades in some of my drama, I got a first in my playwriting. In one of my English literature, my Shakespeare, I failed. And me and my English lecturer, he didn't like me. And I think it really did show in my learning and my essays, etc.
That's what I said. There's a rawness to your writing.
Yeah.
And I've picked that up, in the contents of the novel. Do you intend to develop this debut book into a series, or is this just a one-off?
I know, I'm starting the sequel now. It is a continuation.
Mm.
I've been in and out, dipping in and out of the sequel for some months, but again, work and trying to find another form of income so we can survive is really overriding that at the moment. So until I can kind of switch off to the financial pressures, then I will get straight back into it. My biggest ambition in the next 10 years, I want 10 years worth of books on the shelf, which to me is 10 books. Release a book every year, and I want to kind of release it on the same date because it's a personal date to myself. A very good friend of mine died, and that's her anniversary. So yeah.
Would you consider looking at other genres, writing about other areas?
Definitely. Yeah. Me and my daughter, she's 4 and she's obsessed with unicorns. And literally last night we're discussing characters, and my daughter's Lydia Rose. My nephew is Poison Ivy.
Right.
Got nothing, yeah. And we're literally having a little play around now. I do want to write a children's unicorn book because my daughter's so obsessed, and there's not enough unicorn books out there, John. So definitely, I'm open to writing from all angles. I love writing, whether it be songs. I've wrote so many songs. I've wrote so much poetry. I'm not the best at poetry. I'm happy to hold my hand up at that. But I do, yeah, I love writing. It's a healer for me as well, a major healer. Certainly poetry and songs, I find it very, very cathartic.
So would you recommend to people, to write, if, particularly people who've come from your background, to explore and get their stories out?
Oh gosh, yeah, would I? Yeah, it's a big recommendation. A lot of my kind, I say my kind, yeah, but where I'm from, it's about survival. It's about going out to work, hence, my cleaning days. It's about earning the money to put the food on the table there and then. You don't have very much of a long-term outlook coming from the council estate world. You can't afford to. It's I'd say even the last 17 years has been a major higgledy-piggledy run for me. Whether I've been employed, whether I've been unemployed, whether I've been both and survived on the government, it's just been a matter of survival. And you literally chase your tail just to get that bill paid or get that bit of shopping done and get the car on the road. Like when I went to college, when my first, the government stopped all my money. They said because I wasn't available for full-time work and I was doing a full-time job, they stopped my money. I literally had £50 a week to live on for me and my son. I lost my car, I lost everything, but it was all in the hope of things would get better. This will change my life, my son's life. It will give us a completely different being, I hoped. And I was walking to college, and I'm talking 6 miles a day. I was walking to and fro. Now, I look back and I feel like the little lost girl, all alone, trying to better.
So that's why, Claire, I picked up, in your bio and the chit chats we've had before this podcast interview, your life is very much of snakes and ladders.
Yeah, it is.
A lot of snakes and some few ladders. And, when the ladders do come along, I think that you take them. And I think the university and perhaps this book is a ladder. So who do you see as your market for this book?
Oh, definitely women. Definitely women. I'd say women from the age of 16 plus, because of the sex and the darkness of the rapes in the tale. Definitely it's got to be 16 plus. But I do feel that, it wouldn't hurt a 13-year-old to read it, especially from where I'm from, because they might actually see where life could go and where life shouldn't be going. And definitely, I've got a lot of fans. I love it when I say that because it sounds so cliched. But a majority of my readers, I'd say, are men as well. I get some amazing, amazing reviews from men. And every day on LinkedIn, my lovely, wonderful platform that is my only selling platform, may I add, it is men that probably compliment me on my writing and my book. So I would say, it's targeted for both men and women.
So where can people get your book from, Claire?
It's available on Amazon, it's available on Apple, it's available on Barnes & Noble, and it's available on Kobo. Not that I really know Kobo.
So when's the sequel coming out?
I aim to get it out the 24th of June to 2022. That would be a year to the date that I released Truth Be Told 1.
Why the 24th?
And like I say, it was my very good friend. It's actually her birthday on the 24th of June, and she died the year before. And it's just a bit of a you know, a memory for her.
Well,
as well.
Guess when my birthday is?
Is it the 24th of June, John?
No.
Oh, okay. I wouldn't be able to guess this. When's your birthday?
26th, actually. It's the 26th.
Oh, lovely. Do you want me to release it on the 26th, John?
No, you can put it out on the 24th. That's fine.
Oh, bless
It's
you.
going to be in the same sort of style, the same sort of
Yes,
genre, the same
yes, totally. It's totally. It is going to fast forward a few years to the pandemic, and we're going to see a lot of hardship. A lot of hardship.
So it's like in the introduction, you know, a lot of your characters, I've said, are down to earth, hard bitten, no nonsense characters. So it's going to be in a similar sort of vein.
100%. 100%.
Wow. I think that's going to be interesting because you see, Claire, I think, you know, your book here it's certainly not for the faint-hearted, is it?
It certainly isn't.
And it's certainly a book not for those who've got a very judgmental mindset.
100%. 100%. I don't think my academics at University of Kent, the whole English literature department, will enjoy it anyway. I'm sure they'll pull it apart, John. But big middle finger up to them, John.
We won't go there. We won't go there. So, Claire, it's been, you know, fascinating just to get an insight into a little bit about your life, why you've written the book, your thinking, and also to introduce people to your book, you know, Truth Be Told. As I said, it's not a book for the faint-hearted. It's not a book for those who've got a judgmental mindset. If you like a book that's punchy, pithy, down to earth, with lots of twists and turns, that dips into the criminal underworld, the skullduggery that goes on here, then, oh yeah, indeed, and the shadiness of life, then maybe this is a book for you. Or, you know, so all I say is simply go and have a look, go and have a read. But it's a book with a raw edge. So have a read and see what you think. For me, it was an interesting book, and it certainly opened my eyes to a different world, and I appreciate that.
Oh, that's nice.
Oh, yes. As I said, go and have a look, go and have a read. You'll either like it or you won't.
It's a Marmite book.
It's a Marmite book, everybody.
I love a bit of Marmite.
So do I. It's a Marmite book. And I was a Marmite character when I was at work.
I'm a Marmite girl and I love it.
Claire Goff, thank you very much for coming on to the show today and to talk about yourself and your book. And it leaves me, as I normally say at the end of the show every time, is I'm JT Crowley. Thanks for listening, watching, wherever you are in the world. So until next time, stay safe.